I'm Beth, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 1st of 2017. That was a day that a loving God separated me from alcohol, a loving God that I didn't want and definitely didn't think that I needed. And in fact, I didn't think Alcoholics Anonymous was going to work for me. Right. I just don't understand the concept when I walk in here. And I don't understand that I've been trudging around the bottom of this mountain in my entire life. And I've been going around the same path and wearing it out because I've run it through the mill. And I know that if I climb the mountain, that I will get vitamin D at the top of the mountain, that the air will be easier to breathe. But, it's like taking the 12 steps up to the top of the mountain. I just don't see a path. And when I look for a path, I see a lot of boulders in the way. And even when I start to climb that mountain, I'm the one who trips over the pebbles, right? So I have no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous, when you guys say, just take it 1 minute at a time, Beth, I think, oh my God, I have to live with this insanity in my head for 1 long minute at a time. And so I don't understand until I take the action with a sponsor and read this book, which I've fallen in love with because it is the treasure that offers me the path to serenity. But long before I got here, and even while I'm taking the process of the steps, I couldn't really see the truth about myself, right? I just had no idea how upside down my life was or how upside down my thinking was. And I really thought alcohol was the problem. I didn't understand that it centers in my mind. I didn't understand because everything that I had been acting towards, I'm like the actor who wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but in my heart knows that I don't deserve it. I wanted to said those things about me. But when I get things down in black and white, I began to see that I really run from people, pain, and problems. I know how to indulge in pity and pride. I thought it was my responsibility to be upset. I thought I was being of service to others by not tolerating your stupidity or meanness. And that I could be mean and angry if you were mean and not kind and call it justified. And I thought I was doing a service to everyone. That's how insane I was. I know how to judge. I know how to shove my opinions down people's throats. And I know how to manipulate situations, especially with anger. I thought anger would get you to act right. I didn't know that anger was really fear, but I go to anger because anger feels like power to me. Lack of power is our dilemma, but I've always been looking for some kind of power. Until I got down in black and white, I would have never told you that I'm a victim. I've run around my entire life saying, you make me feel. When in fact, nobody has the power to make me feel any certain way. That I never matured because I started drinking at a young age. That I never grew up emotionally. That I never tapped into that unsuspecting resource, the spiritual side of me. I just prioritized all my upsets. And then I tried to manage and cope with them and manipulate people or circumstances so that I don't feel so upset anymore. I just didn't know how to show up to life. And those things that I just described, the unmanageability that we talk about in the developments, are the things that I can still default today, right? Character defects are what I call my defaults. I can go right back into them. Having trouble with personal relationships. Oh boy, if you were wrong, I was going to tell you all about it. I can still default into getting an emotional rise off of things because now that alcohol is out of my system, where am I getting that endorphin or that dopamine release? Well, a little drama. I like to indulge in a little drama. Ego says that being in a negative, that maybe it'll get me what I want. And if you won't listen to me and my problems, my negativity, then I can tell my story to myself over and over and over again, being caught in the bondage of self. All about me, like the opera singer, as my sponsor would say when I'd call her to complain about something. Why would I make myself so miserable indulging in negativity? And why in Alcoholics Anonymous is that I've been through the 12 steps and I'm sponsoring other women and doing everything you say. Why is it that I still default to some of these things that I go to? And how do I get out of them today? See, I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, but I had no idea. I never knew that ego comes from a place of lack and limitation or lack and attack. And so it's constantly judging you. Ego believes I'm a nobody, so it wants to prove that I'm a somebody. And we'll even use spiritual principles that we have in our book, like step 11, to try to use spiritual knowledge and spiritual practices to cut other people down. Oh, they're so sick. I know more than them. Don't you know what I've read? I'm so spiritual awakened now. And so I have to really be careful of what it is that I'm doing here that causes separation. because my entire life I've spent running with this ego mind, this bondage of self, creating separation between me and you. I begin to think that my judgments, my opinions, and my preferences are optimal, and you need to hear them. And so that's how I live, because I need that little rush of feeling a little smugly superior to you. Or at least I can go home. I may not say those things outright to you, but I can go home and I can have arguments with you in the shower. Oh, she's so wrong. So ego creates a separation, the manifestations of self that had defeated me. You know, I thought when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, people with 40 years were walking on water. We are not saints. We all still have an alcoholic mind that takes us back into those things that I've just described. And so step 11 is so important for me. My inventory reveals to me these old ideas and beliefs. The result was nil until we let go, absolutely, that I had no idea about, because the self-appraisal is not enough. If you told me that I felt like I was not enough, I would have said, no way, because ego rises up and tries to prove that I am enough. And I would have never said that about myself. I would have never told you that I had old ideas that I'm not going to be safe and protected. And that's where most of my fear comes from, because I'm running my own show. There is no God in my life. That I actually behave as if I'm afraid that I'm going to be unloved, or you're not going to love me and give me what it is that I need to feel okay, because I've based everything I need on outside stuff to make me feel okay, and it never fixed me. I've run around as a victim saying, life is not fair. Today in Alcoholics Anonymous, when things happen, because they do in sobriety, I've had to change that language from it's not fair to it's unfortunate. I've also had an old idea that it's not safe to speak my truth, because I'm afraid you're going to be displeased with me if I say something you don't like. Or if you're not in harmony with what I think, boy, was I going to tell you all about it. So I vacillate between the two. There's never a middle of just peace. I never valued peace. I never looked at values. Our book says that we can't fool ourselves to values. If you were cute, had a job, made me laugh, relationship. And 6 months later, I thought I was Beth the Builder. Let's change him. So the ego steps in and says, when these things, I'm not enough, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be safe and protected. The ego steps in and looks like my savior. And it's the bondage of self when I talk about the ego. It steps in and it says, you know what? You are such a piece of crap, Beth. And I'm going to beat the crap out of you right now with how much of a piece of crap are, because you're not loved. You're not enough. They don't think well of you. And so if I beat the crap out of you, Beth, maybe that'll get you to act right. And I believe these lies. This is what I'm up against. And I have no idea of the illusions and the delusions, the lies that my brain tells me. And so I will behave in ways that are very unbecoming, and I step on the toes of my fellows, or I think I can wrest happiness and satisfaction out of the world if I just manage well. So when you tell me to pray and meditate when I came in here, I said, heck no, I have no interest in doing that. Even when I tried, it's like, oh my God, so much stuff is running through my head. I had no idea. And it doesn't feel very peaceful to me. But I was told that if this is a program of action, and if I take these actions, I follow these suggestions, that I will come to know God in a new way that I've never known. And that the reason why I need God is because of all these fearful, squirmy, unmanageable thoughts that go on in my head, that I'm not enough. Newcomers come into the room all the time. I'm not enough. And don't you just want to shake them and say, you're right, you're not, because you need God. I don't know that. But I do know that you have something that I don't have. So I begin to take the action. I begin to pray and meditate to a God that I don't believe in, a God that I don't want, and a God that I don't think is going to work for me. And I begin doing what we call the nightly review of my day, the 11 step questions. And I start answering them. And the longer I'm sober, the more I begin to have experiences. The more I begin to talk to other people in this program who share their experiences with me and assure me that whatever crazy thing that I'm going through, because like I said, I love to indulge in my problems and sit in them, that there's always a beginning, middle, and an end. And that if I try to cope and manage with these things on my own, I'm not going to be successful, and it's probably going to get me drunk, and I need to find a power that isn't me. So stop trying to cope and manage and learn how to surrender certain things. And I have no idea how to do that. So I begin to take this action. I begin to meditate, which helps me become the non-judgmental awareness to my thoughts. Someone once told me that we have like 40,000 thoughts a day. It's insane, right? I can't tell you what I was thinking about, but picture a hurricane. The further out from the eye, my thoughts are wild and out of control and taking on a life of their own. I pray and I meditate to realize I'm sometimes under the delusion that I can control my thoughts. They're like birds flying over my house. I can't control the birds that are flying over my house, but today I get to pick which ones I let land on my house and build a nest. Today I get to make better choices of what it is that I focus on. So I watch my thoughts often. There's 40,000 of them. The dog's barking over there, the neighbor's dog, it's annoying the crap out of me. I get to be the witness, not to focus on the negative ones, to pick the ones that are nurturing, that are loving, that are kind. I never had those thoughts before, or I never focused on them. I think for me, there's this essence of connecting with the true self, or deep down inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. In the beginning, that just looked like living by principles. Today, I know that there is a loving God that resides in me, and it is the true self. But I've been operating from the false self, the ego mind, the bondage of self my entire life. It's still there. It's still alive and well. And this is why I need prayer and meditation, to get glimpses of peace. Glimpses of peace. I call them islands of peace. Sometimes I go for a swim, but I don't go for a swim as long as I used to, which is the most amazing part, right? Buddha said that all that we are is a result of what we have thought. And so I learned that I have to focus on the things that are eternal. The principles of this program, who I really am at the core essence. I used to run around in the beginning, I'm so selfish and self-centered. The truth about who I am is that I behave selfish and self-centeredly, but that is not who I am. Yes, I have alcoholism. Yes, I can behave that way, but I had to stop making that identification of I'm the worst of the worst. I'm so selfish and self-centered. I'm not. At the root of me, the God idea, I have access to an inner resource of wisdom and love, but I was never focusing on those things. It's like the ego was standing in front of me, screaming at me so loudly, and the voice of God was whispering, and I couldn't hear. And I didn't want to hear. I loved being in the bondage of self. It was comfortable sitting in my crappy diaper. It was the only thing that I knew. And so as I start to meditate, I pick up some other outside literature, as our 11th step says. There's plenty of literature out there. I begin to meditate on passages that hold this radiant image of the true self. And that for us, we have that in the St. Francis prayer. That's the beauty of who I really am, are those beautiful, glorious words. But when I'm in the bondage of self, I'm practicing those opposites. So I begin to meditate on who I really am. And I pick these things that support and love and nurture. I begin to do little things like mantras, and I have tons of mantras. I'll stand at the dishes and I'll be reciting a mantra. I've got mantras, forgive them for they know not what they do, so that I don't take you personally, because I love taking people personally. I am personally offended all the time, and I had no idea. It's like if Allie says to me, hey, Beth, I hate your green hair. I'm like, ha ha, Allie, I don't have green hair. But if Allie says to me, hey, you put on 10 pounds since I saw you last, boy, oh boy, are my claws going to come out. How dare you? Because that belief, I believe I put on 10 pounds. So what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is we look at the old ideas and beliefs. We look at the default patterns, what we would call defects. But I don't even like to say that I'm defective. Who I am, because of whose I am at the root of me, is a beloved child of a God out there who loves me as I am, not as I should be, because none of us are as we should be. We are all suffering from the human experience at times. I will never rise above my humanness. But what I do is I get those glimpses of peace through prayer and meditation. Often my mantra is I am. Because when things show up in life, my mom wanted to kill herself a of weeks ago, ends up in the hospital, shatters her arm in 6 places. I find out her financials, she has $60,000 cash left in the bank. She can't even afford to go anywhere into assisted living. The mind and the hair goes on fire, and all of a sudden I'm in problems. And I've created separation from God. And I go back into that old idea and belief that I'm not safe and protected, that God's not going to take care of me, that God's not going to take care of her. That doesn't mean that I don't have actions to take. I absolutely do, but I want to make sure that they're spirit guided rather than Beth guided. And I don't want the mind to take over where all of a sudden I'm back into the drama. Look what she did. And now I'm the victim to her when she's playing the victim to me. And boy, oh boy, the two pain bodies can feed off of each other. How do I find glimpses of peace when things don't go my way? Because I've lived my whole life based on shoulds. I should, they should, the world should. And I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous that I don't know what anybody should, including myself. And it stopped shoulding all over the place. To form a relationship with a God. I thought I was God. I relied on me and my intellect all the time. Works great at my job. I'm a data analyst, but I always said, even when I was active in alcoholism, I'm great that I overthink things for my job, but it doesn't work out so well for my personal life. Still doesn't today. Still doesn't today. I have to run my thoughts by other people quite often. They're a lot better than they used to be. And they're more effective in trying to be useful and helpful, which is another thing why I love about step 11. Upon awakening, it's not about, I got this meeting at 8 o'clock and at 12 o'clock, I got to do X, Y, Z. That's just called showing up and being basic living 101 responsibility. It's upon awakening, how am I going to be useful and helpful to those around me? Because I show up to work, I'm squirmy, fearful, and afraid. My boss just quit. The director's telling me that the guy below him, who would be my next boss, he's been fired. And I'm now reporting to the director, who I don't really like. How do I get to that place of peace? Instead of that place of judgment, fear, everything's all about me. What's going to happen to me, 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 me. Do I believe that I'm safe and protected? Or am I just going to sit around and what I don't like, what I think I need, this is what's missing? Because that's how I live my life, when in fact, this God has been providing for me all along, even in those painful situations. Even in the painful situation where my mom is in this hospital, she can't get psychiatric help. She shattered her arm in 5 places. They have to put her in a nursing home. I decide which nursing home she goes to because she doesn't want to be involved in making any decisions. I find out my mom has got borderline personality disorder, which explains so much in my childhood. And I can really sink in oh my God, look what happened to me. No wonder why I am the way I am. And all the stuff that starts talking to me and widgeting away. None of that is going to make me useful to you. None of that's going to be useful and helpful to me. How do I get recentered and reconnected and find peace, which is always available to me? How do I deal with the discomfort of being sad for my mom, of not knowing what's going to happen to her because she can't move back in her house? It's a hoarder's house. If she falls again, she will probably die. I don't have to figure it all out today. Today, I want to have trust and reliance upon God and know that I'm safe and protected, and so is my mom. And pause when agitated or doubtful, and ask for the direction of what my next step is to be. But I'm an alcoholic. I want the whole path lit up because I don't like not knowing. I don't like sadness, discomfort, squirmy feelings. That's a lot of reason why I drank. Because I don't want to deal with reality any more than my mom doesn't want to deal with reality. But I'll drink over it if I don't deal with it. I've only been rejecting to reality half the time, and reality always wins 100% of the time, which is the insane thing. I spend all this time worrying. My sponsor says, you have time to worry, you have time to meditate and pray. But for me, having a hangnail is a tragedy. So I have to watch for these things. Our 10 step says, watch, turn, ask. In the 11th step, I'm not letting these thoughts take root and bear fruit. Yes, I'm allowed to have these feelings, but I have to ride out these storms. Little by slowly, they calm. Everything has a beginning, middle, and an end. But see, sometimes I like the intoxication of a little emotional rise, a little scared, a little something, because I can't get it from alcohol anymore. And that's dangerous for me. I also can't go into, let's just let stuff roll right off my back. Let go, let God. This too shall pass. I don't want to have the Pollyanna of, okay, it's well, I'm okay. It's fine. I'm no longer going to bang my head on this wall anymore. The truth is I get to feel my feelings, but without a perverse payoff and indulging in them and making them dramatic. Today, I can say I have feelings of sadness for my mom. Today, I can say I have feelings of fear of the unknown, but men of courage, men of fear have courage. They trust their God, our book tells us. Sometimes I don't always want to believe that, baby. I'm willing to be willing to believe. But I don't deny what goes on in me. It's like if I step in dog poop, I'm never okay with it, right? But I'm not going to deny that it sucks and it happened. But I'm also not going to make my peace of mind contingent on this fantasy thinking that it should be different than it is. I want to accept reality as it's manifesting without objecting to it. So sometimes as these feelings crop up, I have to allow them, even in meditation. Do your worst to me. You got 3 minutes. Because the more I reject that they're there, the more I resist, the more they persist. Just like the ego, the more I resist it, the more it persists. And I want to come into alignment with what God thinks of me. I made a mistake at work. It was a really big deal. My boss found out about it. And I defaulted to those old ideas and behaviors again, where all of a sudden I'm fearful and afraid, and I want to play the victim to her. And then I just start telling myself a really crappy story about I'm the worst of the worst. That should have never happened, because alcoholism is still alive and present, where I can default back into those delusions and illusion. The illusion is that I should never make a mistake. The delusion is that if I never make a mistake, I'll be okay. This is why I need prayer and meditation in my life, so that I can get right with God, that when other people are displeased with me, which she was, that it has nothing to do with who I am at the root of me. But I've been spending my entire life giving everyone more power over my mind and my emotions than I have. You need to be happy with me. You need to feel good about me. Then I won't ever get angry at you, husband. I've been looking for outside validation when the truth is I need meditation and prayer to feel like enough, so that I develop God esteem and God confidence. So as these things crop up in life, which they will, that I realize and I have the awareness that these are the things that I default to. And that in prayer and meditation, in prayer, God, even if someone is displeased with me, even if my boss is displeased with me, that does not say anything about who I am. That I am still human and I am still suffering from the human condition, as I always will. But that I have tools in Alcoholics Anonymous where I realize where I default to, so that I can go to God and reinforce the God idea of how loved I am, even if people are displeased with me, even if I make a mistake. The passage, I'm going to read the whole paragraph to you from the 12 and 12. It says, perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us. At first, when I come in, I feel the sense of belonging in the fellowship of AA. And I still have that, and I value that more than anything today. I'm so thankful for it. But that sense of belonging today is the belonging that I want to get from God, because I will seek it outside of me. I can be an approval addiction junkie like that, because that's where I default to. These are the things that I watch for in prayer and meditation. The more I reaffirm the beautiful, glorious words in these prayers and these mantras that I do, the more likely I am to go out in this world and be prepared to not take you personally. I showed up at the nursing home with my mom yesterday to discuss that she only has $60,000 in cash to live off of. If she lives another 15 years, she's utterly screwed. I got to show up in a loving, kind way. Not to tell her that she made a big mistake and I'm fearful and afraid for her. I have to ask God to guide my words. I meditate before I go in there because I told you my mom has borderline personality disorder. My entire life, my mom has called me evil, the B word, and I won't pronounce the other things. My mom didn't show up at my wedding. My mom is not capable of being the mom that I desired, that I want, I need, that came out in my inventory. I have made my mom my higher power my entire life. She has the power to push my buttons and for me to react. I've never learned how to respond. I've never had relationships with people. I've always had reactionships, and they've never made me useful. Today, I want to learn how to respond with love. And I know that when I visit my mom, that my mom, like me, although she's not going to drink on it, is more likely going to say some of those things to me again. And they are hurtful, and it is sad. But I know today that my mom is not my higher power. I know today that I have a loving parent called God, and that I need to stay right-sized on who that parent is instead of defaulting in that my mom can have more power over my mind and my emotions than I have. My job is not to create separation, which is what the ego does, which will walk in there and say, well, she's spiritually sick. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's ruined her life. All my judgments and opinions, I don't want to unleash on someone. I'm not judge, jury, and executioner anymore. And the way I do that is by getting right-sized in meditation. In the 12 and 12, and it talks before the St. Francis prayer. It talks about St. Francis and that he had to go through the ringer and that he had to feel pain. But the way the St. Francis prayer, Bill says, came about was through going through the ringer and through going through the pain, he began to envision. He began to envision and have an expression of what the words were: see, feel, and wish what the ideal life would be. And that's what the words we get in the St. Francis prayer. For me, in my meditation, I'm doing the same thing. I'm finding those things that feed the true self, not the false self and the negativity and the neighbor's dogs barking and I want to kill them right now. I focus on the beautiful words, the radiant love, forgiveness, compassion, the things that are inside me because there is a God inside me. It's just I get disconnected constantly throughout my day. And I also don't want to have an ego trip on beating the crap out of myself, saying I'm the worst of the worst and I'm so selfish and self-centered. I am human. I am human, and I get centered and back to God a lot quicker than I used to. And for that, I'm grateful. But I've got to be careful to not let the ego take over and tell me I'm the worst of the worst. The 12 and 12 says, I'm not going to like prayer all the time. I'm going to be the rebellion dog. And it says that's okay. But see, pride rises up and it says, I'm so arrogant. I'm the worst of the worst. I'm not doing what I should be. I'm such a bad girl, which is pride in reverse. God doesn't think those things about me. I think those things about me, and I cause my own sober suffering from that. So in meditation, I want to be thinking about the things that God thinks about me. In meditation, when I was in 6th grade, I was kicked out of a Christian school, highly self-righteous after that. Screw religion and those hypocrite parents of mine. I got kicked out of a Christian school. How does that happen? Well, you know, the boys were throwing stones at us. I've been taught to how to write petitions as part of a 6th grade class. So I wrote a petition to get the boys to, stop throwing rocks at us. Somehow it went political, but at that age, I didn't understand it. I couldn't grasp it. And I copped a resentment that I would carry around, and I would have that against God because I couldn't see clearly and I couldn't see the truth. And while it was a very devastating thing that they did to an 11-year-old girl, bringing her up in front of an entire church, calling me a sinner and having one pray for me, until I put down in black and white, I remained a victim to people and a God. And I didn't want anything to do with God. In black and white, it's people, and it was never God that did those things to me. We all have free will, but it was just easier for me to blame you because then I have something tangible and I can be the victim because that's what I do. And I find out that it was never God. In prayer and meditation, in my meditation, I get to go back in and envision rescuing that little girl, rescuing her from that place with my God. These are the things that I get to envision, these things that I get to heal, these old wounds. Sometimes they open up again, but I'm so grateful for 12 steps that get me back to a place where I'm not walking around constantly wounded by this world. Because it says on that page, the belonging that comes to us, but we no longer live in a completely hostile world. I was a victim and a pessimist, and it was always your fault. It says we are no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. Today, my purpose is to be loving. Today, my purpose is to see the God in you. How can I judge a brother or sister when God's eyes are staring back at me? Can I use that as a mantra because that's where my mind goes to? Can I remember that there's a God in you and that I'm not superior or inferior to you? Because I have alcoholism and that's where my mind goes to. It says the moment we catch even a glimpse of God's will, the moment we begin to see truth, justice, and love as the real and eternal things in life, we are no longer deeply disturbed by all the seeming evidence to the contrary that surrounds us in purely human affairs. Seeming. Everything seems like a problem when it happens to me. First thought, always wrong. I'm walking the dog last year. The dog poops. I go to pick it up with a poop bag. My finger goes through the poop bag. I've got poop on my finger. I'm highly upset. I'm a few blocks away from home. I never throw it in anyone's garbage can because I know what happens if it sticks to the bottom of my garbage can when the neighbors do it. I threw it in a neighbor's garbage can and a woman got out of her car because she saw me do it. She was on the phone with her friend. And boy, did she let me have it. Those 9-step promises come true. These steps are not maintenance steps. They are my growth steps. Because I know that I'm an approval addiction junkie. Because I know that when other people are displeased with me, as she was, I know that I will react. Because I know that the ego shows up. And it's like the triangle, the ego's trilogy, I call it. On one side is fear, the other side is anger, the other side is guilt. Whenever I react from fear, anger, or guilt, what I do is I produce more fear, anger, and guilt in me. Because I pray and I ask God, in this moment, God, give me, I have the awareness that I'm about to release one of these character defects on this woman. And I have the humility to ask God to help me see things from an entirely different angle. The entirely different angle comes from practicing the disciplines of these steps of 11, of praying and meditating, of knowing where my defaults are, of growing along spiritual lines, of seeing at 6 years sober what I couldn't see at the beginning. When the first time I took the steps, it was like, yeah, I take things personally. Yeah, I'm the victim. And now it's like, yeah, I believe I'm not enough. I'm afraid I won't be loved and respected because I'm not enough. I'm afraid God won't take care of me. And I put up these walls and I build this separation because I live in the bondage of self of the ego. And that's where I default to when someone is displeased with me, like this woman screaming at me. And because she's telling her friend about what a rotten person I am, because I pray and meditate and I know how beloved I am and that I'm human and I'm having a human experience and I'm not a bad girl. Because God, I have God esteem and God confidence. You have a little less effect on me than you used to most days. In that moment, instead of saying all the things that I wanted to say to her, in that moment, God's grace steps in and it says, do you want me to get it out of the trash can? That's how I can be helpful. I still feel that emotional rise. Peace is always available to me, and peace will be available to me when I choose to be useful and helpful instead of running my mouth the way I want to. And I ask God to intervene on the manifestation of self where I'm going to step on the toes of my fellows. She didn't want me to get it out of the trash can. A couple months later, I'm walking by her house and the wind is blowing over all her trash cans and there's hundreds of White Claws all over the road. See, we have a meeting around the corner from my house. My home group is by the book in Atlantic Highlands. If you don't know where that is, find Wall Street in New York City, draw a straight line down. I take the ferry to the city every day for work. That's where I'm at. We have a meeting around the corner from my house. I didn't do damage by releasing Beth on her. If she shows up there, I don't have to look the other way because I'm living by spiritual principles most days, eternal principles which never fail me. See, people are either asking for love or they're demonstrating it. I was always asking for love in my behavior, but I would have never verbalized that and said that. Just like my mom is asking for love, but she doesn't know that because she lives in her own personal hell, just kind of like the personal hell I lived in. Thank you, Nathan. In our big book, there's a lot of great things that I like to meditate on. At about 1.5 years sober, I got a new sponsor, and she's my sponsor today. And I told her I wasn't sure what God's will is for my life. She said, Beth, it's in the big book, and I want you to go find the places and write them in first person. A lot of these things that I'm going to share with you tonight, a few of them, are things that I meditate on today to see how far away I am from separated from God. Do I believe, or am I now willing to believe? On page 13, Beth has entered into a new relationship with her creator that has elements of a way of living that answers all her problems through her belief, willingness, honesty, and humility. I can take that one and I can meditate on it all morning. Am I still demonstrating our eternal principles of belief, willing, honesty, and humility that God has given me a way of living that will answer my problems, not the way I want them answered, not always without pain and suffering. That's living in reality. I always had fantasy thinking. This should be different. Page 25, Beth's creator has entered into her heart and life in a way that is indeed miraculous and is commenced to do things for her which she can't do for herself. I can use that one right now with my mom's situation. Do I believe, or am I willing to believe that God can do things that I can't do for myself in this situation? Page 28, Beth is a child of a living creator and has formed a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as she is willing and honest enough to try. Do I stay willing and honest enough to try? Prayer, meditation, to reinforce the things that I believe that God believes about me instead of relying on what I believe about me, which is never pretty. Am I relying on an intelligent agent? Do I believe I'm a spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation? Do I believe I'm spiritually liberated from this world and rise above my problems because God makes that possible? Or am I being extremely defiant, sitting in the muck because it's comfortable? Do I believe I'm standing in the presence of infinite love, power and love, and live in conscious companionship with my creator? Not all the time, but I have a way to get there. There's tons of these all over our big book. Page 63, Beth enjoys peace of mind with a conscious of his presence who takes her fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter because she's reborn. Do I believe I'm reborn? Do I believe that I have a loving God that's going to keep me safe and protected, and all these things that our big book says? There's pages of them. This was one of the best exercises that I could have ever done. So I go through and I ask myself these questions and I meditate on things. Am I relying on God for ideals, guidance, questionable situations, sanity, and for strength to do the right thing? Or am I relying on me? Have I begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward men, all men, even my enemies? Ooh, tough one. On my own power, I'm not able to show up and be loving, kind. It's like holding my breath. I can only do it for so long. This is why I need 6 and 7. This is why I need prayer and meditation. This is why I need to spot check and a 10-step throughout my day as these things crawl up so that I don't unleash me on you. I don't want to unleash the loving Beth on you. We are not saints. But today, I'm not so uncomfortable, even when I'm uncomfortable and discomfort of not knowing how life's going to turn out with the job, with the mom. Today, my peace of mind is not contingent upon how you're treating me, whether you're pleased with me. As long as I continue to meditate on the things. One of my favorite books I'll share with you is called God Makes the Rivers Flow. It's by Eknath Eshwan. And he talks about the St. Francis prayer, and I'll end with this. Resentments, right? We think we got rid of them and it just comes right back up. It says, this is a note from your resentment. I'm a resentment and might say, I don't worry. I've been safely settled in this fellow's mind for years. He takes good care of me, feeds me, dwells on me, brings me out and parades me around. All I have to do is roar and stir things up from time to time. Yes, I'm getting huge and feeling grand, and I'm proud to tell you there are even a few little rancors and vertipulations running around now, spawned by yours truly. So he may think, but I assure you that when you meditate on the glorious words of Saint Francis, you are prying him loose. You are saying in a way that goes beyond vows and good intentions that resentment is no part of you. You no longer acknowledge its right to exist. Thus, we bring ever more perceptibility into view of our divine self. We use something genuine to drive out imposters that have roamed around largely through our neglect and helplessness. I'm no longer helpless thanks to a 12-step program and to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, my name is Millie, and I'm an alcoholic. I was on the Big Bronx Big Book meeting the other day, and one of the members, Ali, spoke, and he spoke of this meeting. So I just came in to check it out. And I might say the woman that spoke, I believe her name was Beth. I could not pinpoint where I heard her voice from before, but she sounds just like Jennifer Tilly. Oh my goodness. Not a question, an observation. And her voice kept me enraptured on her share of prayer and meditation and how useful and helpful it has been to her as well it is to me. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Millie. Grateful Bob, come on up.
Hi, Beth. Wow, that was awesome. I really appreciate your talk. I got so many notes here, and I probably got about 10 or 15% of it. I don't write that fast, but boy, what a lot of thoughts and ideas. I just had one question. That thing where you held your hand up and you had the triangle and you had fear and anger and guilt, but there was a name for the whole configuration. What was that?
I call it the egos trilogy. Whenever I'm in fear, anger, and guilt, if I react from fear, anger, and guilt, I create more fear, anger, and guilt.
That is powerful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Beth.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Grateful Bob. Dolly A, come on up.
Hello, Beth. I'm a recovered alcoholic myself. I so enjoyed listening to you. Fundamental Basics, Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. All our spiritual solutions are in that book. You did a wonderful, wonderful job presenting the spiritual laws that are contained in that book. And I want to say, Bill Wilson once said, recovery is moving from fear to love, bottom line. And Carl Jung, and this reminded me of you, said, those that look outward dream in life. Those that look inward awaken. You beautiful awakened soul. I'm so happy to have heard you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dolly. Danny L, come on up, brother.
Hey, thanks, Philip. Alcoholic, my name is Danny. Thank you so much, Beth. I was a few minutes late. I don't even think I was here 30 seconds, and I sent our friend John C a message saying, why is she talking about me? So I really identified with everything that you had said. And and my quick story, I wasn't doing the prayer and meditation. I was the GSR of our group, and I ended up going back out 4 months ago. And by the grace of God, I came back 15 days ago. But it's great to be back and listening to powerful AA speakers, and you're definitely one of them. And God bless you and thank you very much.
Welcome back, Danny. Murray from Winnipeg, come on up.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Murray. I'm alcoholic. Thank you so much, Beth. That was kind of blew my mind. Yeah, I was thinking. We talk about spiritual kindergarten here, and I feel even though I've been around a little while, like I'm never going to get out of there. But you were like at least like third grade or something, because I can tell you've done a lot of work. That's what I'm trying to say. You've done a lot of work, and holy smokes. So just one thing you said about my brain says, right? My brain says I'm not good enough. I don't measure up. Usually goes to the negative, right? And I use that expression a lot. And but now I'm going to realize more that I don't, don't believe the lies, right? So just because I heard this expression this morning, someone said they were under spiritual attack, right? What's your take on how much of that is just my screwed up thinking, and is there a force opposed to God that is putting some of that there? And if that's not a comfortable question for you, you don't have to answer, but I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for your question and for your insights there. I think we all have our different beliefs on that. So I don't want to offend anyone, but the ego, right? You could call it the angel and the devil. You can call it the bondage of self. You could call it spiritual attack, right? But I think everything happens in this world because we're all one. But everyone has free will, and what someone does over here has the effect down the line, right? What I do affects somebody else. I don't even know how that's accomplished, right? But I've always believed that what I'm doing, running my free will, doesn't have any effect on anyone. That's my personal opinion. I do believe that everyone has an ego. I think there's 244 other 12-step programs because we're all a little screwy out there. We could all probably use one. And we can all operate as a disconnect, not knowing that there is a God, not knowing that we're loving, compassionate beings, because I need, something's missing, right? Which drives my behaviors and sets and trains emotions that I step on the toes of my fellows. I don't know that it's a spiritual attack. I think that we're all just operating from whatever spiritual or non-spiritual place that we're at, and that what one person does affects everyone. But that's just me.
Thank you so much, Murray. Maria, please come on up and ask your question.
Thank you, Maria Alcoholic. Thank you so much, Beth. So appreciate your service being here today, and thanks for everyone who's running the meeting. Beth, can you just repeat what you said about were the meditations that you do from the book, were those from the promises, or were they from step 11? I think I missed that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different meditations. Some of the ones that I read are actually from our big book, where my sponsor asked me to go in the big book, reread it, and find out what God does for me, or the type of relationship that I should have with him. So if you actually email me or shoot me a text, my phone number is up on the screen if you can find it. I can send you the ones that I've done. And I think there's 70 of them. So that's one of the types of meditation that I do from our big book. The other one I do is I pick a mantra, things that I need to work on. Okay. So one of the things for me was like forgiveness, right? Forgive them for not knowing what they do, because I'm personally offended by everything, right? Right. But some of it is just, meditating on what God thinks of me. So that book, God Makes the Rivers Flow, by Eknath Eshwan. This has so many great prayers in it from all different faiths, not just one. And that's why I love this, because the things in here reinforce the true self of who I really am. The St. Francis prayer is in here. And so I like to meditate on things because, like, as Buddha said, right, what I'm thinking basically is, or who I am is basically a result of what I've thought, right? So if I believe I'm a piece of crap, I'm going to run around trying to prove that I'm not, and it sets in the wheels of motion. So I really think it's important that I focus on the true self, the good things, the God piece in me. Does that help?
It's very helpful. Thank you. And it's obviously effective. And, you gave such a great example of you've built the foundation and then the moment comes, it's always going to come with the poop or the mom or the whatever. And then you put the preconditions into place, and there's no guarantee, but it certainly is helpful in receiving whatever that mysterious grace equation is. So thank you. It's very helpful. I'll text you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Sharon, your hand is down. I'm not sure if you want to put it back up. You still have a question. Sid, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sin. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Beth, for sharing. Wow, a lot of stuff you shared, like I'm going through, and it was almost like you was telling my story. But on the other hand, you kind of made, like I feel more like I'm okay because I'm an alcoholic, and some of the stuff I go through up in my head. You said a lot today. But the other part of it too is that you also shared how to get out of it, how to, be different, how to change. And that's the part I like. You gave the solution as well. And so I'm not too far from by the book. I think I'll mosey on over there and see, can I get some of that? I didn't really have a question, but I really wanted to thank you for sharing.
Love to see you.
Thank you so much, Sid. My brother Calvin, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name's Calvin. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much, Beth. What a great message. I enjoyed every word, and what was really interesting is that I ride the Hudson Trail from Keyport to the Highlands 4 or 5 times this year already. So I love going to the Highlands. That's the ending. I turn around and go back to Keyport, and so I love that area. But anyway, when you talked about a lot of different things, you talk about judging. You talk a lot about judging others. And that's something that blocks us off of the sunlight of the spirit, is judging, right? And I've been listening to this thing that was really touching my heart. It's about nuggets, spiritual nuggets, right? And one of the things they talk about is, as people stand where they stand until they move to another place, we're all doing our best, right? And it talks about that everybody got to go through their own experience wherever they're at. And it's for me to keep going, but only do I set them free. I set myself free when I stop judging. I'm the one that gets let out of the box. But for years and years of old way of thinking, you talked about that too, that we think a certain way, and we have to purge that old way of thinking so there's room for new things to come in, so that the God thoughts can be more prevalent. And I don't go back. You talked about, going back to my default setting. And that's what I'm going to go back, because that's what I've been trained to do. So I really got a lot out of your talk tonight. Spiritual nuggets, girl. I tell you. And, I'm just going to keep on coming. I've been here a long time, and my God, that's why people think that time is everything, and it's not. It's what you do with the time, sugar. It's what you do with it. And sure enough, you did something with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Lorraine, good to see you. Come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lorraine. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Beth. It was an extraordinary talk. And as usual, so excited it's recorded so that I don't have to take notes and I can just be completely immersed in just the moment of experiencing all the things you said, knowing I can go back and hear it again because I'll forget. It's just so much. I mean, there's just so much. But I like your prayer. There's this one spiritual practice I follow that says that the only thing lacking in any situation is what we haven't forgiven. And when I realize how many things I haven't forgiven as I went through the steps, and I continue to go through the steps, it's kind of amazing. So that person who is helping me in that spiritual practice has a prayer that I've started using now, similar to yours. And it's a mantra. And you said you were doing your dishes or something when you did it. I'm like, I always do this when I'm doing my dishes. But it's like, and I'll use my sister as an example just because I'm often saying it about her and she's my best friend. But I'll say, I forgive you, Sonny, for not being the way I wanted you to be. I forgive you and I set you free. I forgive you, Sonny, for not being the way I wanted you to be. I forgive you and I set you free. And I mean to tell you, I just say it nonstop. And it's like the miracle happens if I just keep sincerely saying that prayer, because that's what it's always about. You're not being what I need you to be, so that's why I'm so mad at you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, and thank you. That was just absolutely beautiful and brilliant and poignant and moving, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Okay, so we're going to close out this portion of the meeting. Beth, is there anything you'd like to leave us with before we close up?
I just want to say thank you all for coming tonight and making me feel not so all alone, and knowing that I'm not the only one that suffers from this craziness, but that you all relate to me. That's the gift that I get. Thank you.
Thank you